So I got Mike, and I remember years ago because Mike, as we mentioned earlier, has CP, cerebral palsy. And years ago, back in the day, back when I was a real estate, it's like going back 20 years ago, he was involved with UCP, United Cerebral Palsy Fund.
Right.
I was at a fundraiser, and he got up on stage, and because Mike comes from very humble beginnings, and he told this story about the brown turd. And so that was this car that he had in high school. He used to drive to school, and it was really a messed up car, and the kids used to pick on him and made fun of him. And so it was very inspiring. I was like, I remember watching Mike, there was, I don't know, a couple hundred people there maybe.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people, and everybody loved it. It was a great speech. It was very inspiring because, he humbles himself before the audience and then shares something that was, at the time he's going through it as a kid, it's traumatic because you're in high school, you want to be liked. And everybody's making fun of you, saying, "Oh, there's Mike and the brown turd," and
Yes.
plus on top of that, he's a cripple. Literally,
Yes.
he had a disability. He
Yes.
had cerebral palsy, and the kids didn't care, and they still screwed with him and made fun of him. And so he takes you through that, and I want him to tell the story like he told then because it's very inspiring where he had gotten to. And so he took people from his teenage years when he didn't feel too good about himself to where now he's basically captivating an audience of several hundred people. He's making multiple six figures, working for a big television station in Orlando, dealing with big movers and shakers and very powerful people. Like we were talking about John Morgan.
Yes.
He's a bigwig in the Democratic Party and all the presidents and Pelosi, Barack Obama, Joe Biden. They all come and kiss the man's ring because he has a lot of influence, and these are the kind of people that Mike has hung out with to go from the brown turd to there. And so I want you to, just like that speech, tell the story, how it all came about, what the brown turd is.
Sure. So the basic, as I tell people, I was born with two rocks on my shoulder. One, I was born poor. We lived in a house. We didn't have a front yard. We had front dirt. My dad worked in a bank. Good guy, hardworking, a sweet guy, but the money wasn't his thing. And he's a good Christian guy. And if that was a weight, I was born crippled. So people go, "Oh, Mike, don't say cripple, say handicapped." Listen, I'm a cripple. When people say, Mike Betters, and they go, "Mike Betters, the guy, kind of balding, kind of heavy, whatever, he's old." And they go, "No, the guy with the limp." "Oh, yeah, I know the cripple guy." So John Morgan told me one time, you first have to admit what you are, and I'm a cripple guy. It's not a bad thing. I'm the cripple guy. Mike Betters, yeah, I know the cripple guy. So anyway, poor and cripple, and I always knew, and can't tell you what exactly age I thought of it, but I thought, I'll always be crippled, but I'll never be poor. So even at that young age, I was fascinated by people made money, successful people, and I was always trying to figure out how to get out from being poor. So, and I was trying to date girls, right? Or I was trying to date girls, and they'd be like, "I love you like a brother," and I'd be like, "Fuck, I just want to kiss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be loved like a brother." So, I thought, well, if I got to get a car, I got to get a car. So my dad had no money. He drove 15-year-old, 20-year-old cars. And so I saved my money and I bought a $400, what used to be a police car. And it was white and it was called a Fury 3. That was it was a Chrysler. And so it looked terrible. And where they had pulled the stickers that said, sheriffs or whatever kind of card, you could still see it was etched in the paint. So our next door neighbor, grew up in this house or in this neighborhood. It was called Sunland Estates. There's no estates about it. It was raggedy. We had no AC. So the guy next door neighbor painted cars, and he said, I was, bemusing the idea that this car was ugly and white, and you could still see the stickers. And he said, "I've got some brown paint. Let's paint it." So again, I believe that he goes, "That poor crippled kid. Let's paint the car." So he comes back, and the thing is doo-doo brown. There was a rap song. I don't know.
Doodoo Brown.
Doodoo Brown.
Luke Skywalker.
Doodoo Brown. That's what it was.
Two Life Crew.
And so everything was brown. It was Doodoo Brown, and so I was driving it, and it had carpet on the dash. It was tough. And so one day I drove to school, and somebody goes, "Mike, you look like you're driving around in a big brown turd." And so it caught on. Everybody's like, "Mike Meadows in a turd. Mike Meadows in a turd." And I could still get a date. Couldn't get anybody to kiss me because they're like, "You're driving around in a turd," and had no air conditioning. So that made my life tough, and I just wanted to kiss a girl. So I went to college and majored in radio, television, and film. I had terrible grades, a 2.2. I graduated with. It was terrible with radio, television, and film. I came back to Lake Mary and got a job was in Orlando at the time at the Fox station, making $5 an hour. Now the turd had died in Mississippi. That's where I went to University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. And now I have a 4-door, 3-door car I forget what it was. So I'm getting so old. So anyway, I got in a wreck. It ripped the door off. So now I have a 4-door, 3-door car with a big piece of plastic. I was running the camera, and one day I looked up and I was like, again, I'm always interested in how people made money. And I look and I see these guys walking, they have suits and nice watches and rings and cars. And I go, "Hey, what do they do?" And they go, "They're called account executives." And I go, "Well, fuck, that's what I want to do." Because I'm tired of wearing jeans and T-shirts to work and $5 an hour. And they go, "Oh, no. You can't, because you don't know what they do. And they make lots of money." And I was like, fuck that. I got to figure this out. Took me 2 years to get the job. I applied 5 times. And each time they would say, they'd call you the second interview. They go, "Unfortunately, Mike, we're going to give the job to Andy or Corey or Diana because, you're just that close." And so every time I would go in there, they would go, I knew the second interview was the time when they'd say, "We can't give you the job." And so if I back the story up just a little bit more, my friends that worked in production would say, "You're never going to get the fucking job. You're crippled. You're crippled." And they'd say this, "I want to buy some advertising." And even interesting, I talk about John Morgan being a friend of mine. He's been very good to me. But they would say, way back when, they go, "You're going to go up to John Morgan and go, 'Want to buy some advertising?'" And so those people were pulling me down, and I was like, something in me is like, no, I got to go forward. 5 times I took the job, interview for the job, and 4 times I had to say, if I always remember telling the lady, if I don't get this job, I'll get the next one, and if I don't get the next one, I'll get the next one, and if I don't get the next one, I'll get the next one. And she would go, "That's great, Mike. We'll see you later." And I go back out, and they go, "You fucking didn't get the job because you're crippled, and you got a fucking 3-door, 4-door car. And when is John Moore going to get in your car? And you're going to have to get him in the driver's side and tell him to slide over, but don't slide over too far because you're going to hit the plastic and slide out." So my spirit was, I'm serious. My spirit was about to be broken. I was like, maybe these fuckers are right. I'm crippled, my hand, the whole thing. And so the 5th time, I go in there, and in the second interview, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to say, okay, so I don't get this job, I'll get the next one. If I get the next one, I get the next one, get the next one. And the lady looked up, her name was Sharon DeLuca. She goes, "Mike, you're going to have the job. Let me introduce you to your secretary. Let me give you a company credit card. We're excited to have you here." And I was like, great.
Hit the jackpot.
So I run out to my friend Tom, who's my best friend in the whole world. And I go, "Tom," he was a counter person too. And I go, "Tom, guess what? I'm an account executive. I'm going to be able to take you for lunch. They got an expense report. I got all this stuff." And he goes, "You suck, Mike. You're only going to keep the job for about 6 months. They're going to fire you. You don't know what you're doing. And I was like, what? So anyway, that was 20, 30 years ago.
Your best friend.
My best friend. So the thing I learned from that, and Corey, you can speak to this, you are who you hang around with.
Yep.
You want to be a better baseball player, hang around better baseball players. And so I realized, and again, going a little further, as I started making my way in sales, people want to be listened to. I learned to listen. And I started hanging around people that were more successful than me, and I would ask people, "How did you get here? And what did you do that?" And again, I saw Corey rise, claim to fame. We talked about it yesterday about him $4,000 investment in advertising, and he said it didn't work, but you got to figure out what's going to work. So meet John Morgan.
You got to ask great quality questions.
Great quality questions. And so I learned so much from everybody. And so if somebody said, "What is my best attribute?" I like to listen to people, find out what they've done wrong. I could listen to Corey all day. I'm not saying this just because, you know, before we started talking about colonics. And it was something fascinating. Oh, that's interesting. The clay and so if you want to be more successful, hang around more successful people and try to understand what they're, and then everybody wants to talk about themselves. So if you ask the right questions, you can get this out of the people. Why am I here right now? Because somewhere you went, I like Mike. He's a good guy. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And again, I'm following Andy and Corey, start investing in real estate. And so they tell me things, and I go, I listen to Andy. Andy tells me stories. I go, oh, that's interesting. So at 59, I'm still learning, and I have a passion for, John Morgan told me one time. He said you made $10 million. He said I made $10 million last year, and I go, God dang it, that's a lot of money. He goes, Mike, somebody always makes more money. And he goes, I'm a type A, and I want to find people that got what I want, and I'm going to learn from people. So at that guy, I think he's 65 now, but he's still learning. And so me too, and I'm excited about learning and understanding different things and political ideas. I want to suck it all in, because I think when you stop learning, you start dying. So I'm excited to be here and learn from Corey and take notes about green drinks and clay and probiotics. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Cool.
Very well.
So if anybody's interested in hearing more of my story, my father committed suicide. My mother left us, me and my brother and my father, when we were 6. So if anybody's interested in hearing more of my story, I've been told it's inspiring. Certainly, you can contact me. I believe they're going to put my phone number on the below me, my email address. I'd certainly love to talk to any group or organization. Again, I know that my wheelhouse is people that are below me. Somebody told me one time, they go, Mike, it's hard for you to talk to people that make more money than you, because they've accepted and got what you have and more. But I've worked very well. I think my message goes over very well with any blue collar workers or people that are struggling to do better. Again, poor crippled kid, and I learned the idea about who you are, who you hang around with, and ask questions of people that have what you don't have. So if anybody would want to contact me, I'm certainly welcome to speak with you about how I might be able to help you. Accept speaking engagements all over the country. Please call me, email me, and we'll discuss rates and what you may need from me and what I can deliver. And so I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
So we have Diana, Dirty Diana.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. Excited to be here.
So tell them a little story about who you are, what your background is.
So I'm originally from New York, but I moved here when I was about 10, and I moved to Orlando, grew up there, went to UCF, got a degree in psychology, and from there I realized I wanted to be a songwriter, and I wanted to help people get on their purpose. So I started a podcast called Profound Purpose, where I actually had Mike on, and he basically told the same story of, how he struggled and then became successful by persisting and things like that. And so my mission is just to really get people on their purpose and write music that inspires people and uplifts people.
Very cool. What else you got? Anything else you want to add to that?
That pretty much sums it up. I'm also interested in making, content and online courses to help people find their purpose. That's in the works. Nothing out yet on that.
Let me.
How do people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at profound_purpose, and then I have an Instagram for my podcast, which is at Profound Purpose Podcast.
YouTube channel or no?
Not yet, but when I make one, it will be Profound Purpose.
Cool. Make sure you get that name.
Definitely before someone takes
Especially
it.
once this airs. Somebody will do it just to fuck with you.
Oh yeah.
And then you go, I lost, because my book name, I go by Corey Wayne, which is actually my first name and my middle name. Because when my book was almost done, I was figuring out what, going to get my website. I went and checked my name. It was available. I was like, oh, I'll get that tomorrow. Reserve that from GoDaddy. And then, I don't know, the next day I go on, and somebody had taken the damn name. I was like, fuck. So I was like, what else can I use? And I was thinking Corey Wayne, because that was my middle name. And, my mother, whenever she would get pissed, which was quite often as a kid, Corey Wayne, she would yell at me and say it that way. And so that was available, and that's the pen name that I go by.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll definitely lock that in. Another part of my mission is helping people to step out of their social anxiety, because a lot of times lack of confidence, like I know you talk about building confidence on your page, but it's so major for stepping into your purpose. A lot of times people let like their shyness or social anxiety like hold them back from meeting people. Like, I would have never met Mike. I would have never met you guys if I let like my struggles with social anxiety hold me back. But, it's important
Mike had told me that you were bullied. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I definitely had my struggles with that growing up. I struggled with, acne and braces, teeth issues, and people would pick on me. And but at the end of the day, like, we're responsible for our own self-talk and our own self-image. And, I got into positive thinking. I got into books like, The Secret, which I have my, qualms with that. But the general idea of thinking positively and, like, speaking love and speaking, like, positive things onto yourself in your day and setting intentions, that really, like, changes your outlook on life. And then you get that back from other people. And then people start perceiving you as more confident or as a likable person if you like yourself. If you don't like yourself, people aren't going to like you, because I believe you get back what you put out, and what you say to yourself is like so important.
Let me speak to that. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. It's quoting a song. It's absolutely right. Until I started to love myself, and so my hands all like this. I love it. It's no problem. And how I met her through work. And I read a book. It's called See You at the Top, or maybe it's Meet You at the Top. But I've read it.
I'll see you at the top.
See You at the Top.
Yes.
Zig Ziglar, yeah.
From Kentucky, or excuse me, from Mississippi. And he says one of his basic principles is you can have everything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And so in my life, I want to help Corey get what he wants. I want Andy to get what he wants. Dinah wants. And so as I talk to her, I'm like, listen, I'm going to help her, because, again, I believe in theory of reciprocity, blessings, karma. So I'm going to help her get what she wants, because Corey's helped me, and Andy's helped me. So I want to pass it on. And so that's what I aspire to be. And so, again, you can have everything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want.
That's such a major key. And I really appreciate all your help. Your story really inspires me, how you push through your challenges and dealing with bullying, what other people thought of you, and overcoming that and learning to love yourself. Like, that's so profound. And I'm still on the path to learning to love myself. I think, we could all grow in our self-confidence. Like, I don't think there's a limit to it, but just, being around you guys and hearing these stories, like, really inspires me.
Dr. Deanna, right? We talked about him. He goes, I like that guy so much. He's a big fan of his. He goes, you know what, Mike, you look at Corey. Corey's he's very confident. He's very confident. He's got a bald head. He shaved his head. That's confident. and again, is Corey one of the most confident people? And Andy, you are too, very confident. So hang around people like that. It's all rubs off, and you go, yeah. Corey today was telling me some stories about what he. Some ideas about him just going, I don't care, I'm not doing this or I'm doing that. And so that's inspiring. Like, yeah, I guess why shouldn't you, cave to societal, norm? So it's all good. It's all good.
Definitely.
So how did you get into psychology? Was that because of the bullying, or you were?
Yeah.
What was the impetus for you to major in psychology?
I think the motivator for me was that I was just genuinely passionate about it and interested in learning about people, learning about myself, but also how to be a better communicator, how to kind of, come out of my shell and be able to connect with others on a deeper level, understanding like not everyone thinks like I do. I don't know if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs, but I'm an INTP. Like, there's 16 personality types, and so I might process things one way as an INTP, but then somebody who's extroverted and who's, more organized, maybe like an ENTJ type, they might process things differently. And it's really good to understand how people work. Even if you don't want to be a counselor, psychology is great for business, for things like this, making content, being able to connect with people and understand like what they want, and then being able to give them what they want and help them. Just like the Zig Ziglar book, that was great psychology, right? Because people like who likes them, right? Like if you help somebody, they're going to think highly of you, or they're going to be more likely to want to reciprocate that help. So I guess that, and also positive thinking that I got into around 9th grade to kind of reprogram my mind and the way that I thought about myself. The subconscious mind, a lot of people don't realize, controls like 97% of your life, and really only about 3% of it is like, conscious. So if you can learn to reprogram that through things like hypnosis, meditation, books like The 3% Man, where you learn a new way of thinking, and just reading that over and over again and getting the repetition and programming your mind can really set you up for success.
That's why I always tell everybody, read it 10, 15 times.
Absolutely, yeah, because you understand like repetition is key.
Repetition's the mother of skill.
Absolutely.
I think that was
Tony?
Jim Rohn. Because most of what Tony learned, he learned from Jim Rohn because he worked for him.
Oh, true.
So I think that may have been originally from Jim Rohn. He may have learned it from somebody else. Who knows?
Gotcha.
All I know is like the pain or pleasure thing that Tony always, people do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to Aristotle. So that's literally
Right.
thousands of years old.
Very cool. So on your journey to success, do you feel like there was a time where you had to reprogram your mind and start thinking more positive thoughts and taking more positive actions?
It was funny, just hearing you say that. One of my good friends that I grew up with, or I went to college, one of my college friends, we were hanging out one time. He's like, Corey, all you do is bitch, man. You're always complaining about things. And I realized that I do, because my mother was like that. She was always complaining.
Right.
And I remember I didn't like him saying that about me, because I looked at myself as a positive person. But I was always just noticing negative things and saying it.
Right.
And speaking my mind about it. And so I made a conscious effort after that. I was like, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want people thinking that about me. So I made a conscious effort to focus on saying positive things and being optimistic, and always look. So I got into self-help really because I just want to learn how to be like Mike. How do I make money? How do I become successful? How do I get the big car, the big house, the hot girl, the whole, travel, do all the fun things. And like we were talking about yesterday, hang out at the Beverly Wilshire and hang out with same place, table next to fucking Hugh Hefner and Mandy Sandy and Brandy and all these other different celebrities. And it's like, it's interesting to be in that environment with those people and see how they react, and everybody's on the dance floor together. And it's just like regular people having a party. Just, there's just a lot of people that know who a lot of the people are in the room.
Absolutely.
So it's just, I wanted to figure out how to get there. So that's how I got into self-help.
Right. And the answers are out there. Knowledge is power.
If you seek, you will find.
Amen.
Do you know it all?
Confucius said, real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. The guy that I train with, John Dufresne, he's connectconsulting.net, my firearms instructor. He's a former Army Ranger, and he's got like 2 goals in life about everything he does. Number 1, first thing is have fun. Number 2 is learn something. And I love that philosophy. Try to have fun. And that's why I try to, I always remind Chunky and Gracie when we're working together, have fun, learn something, and focus on that. Because it's got to be fun. Especially like this is the weekend. Normally I'd be enjoying myself, but I'm working. So I'm going to work and play and hang out with cool people, talk about cool things, try to make a difference. So, it's like, I'm really glad appreciate you coming all the way down here to tell your story, because it's pretty inspiring.
That's all good.
Because, today's day and age, people would make fun of you like that, obviously. They get canceled. But back then, people would talk shit, and they didn't care if you were crippled or disabled or whatever. They could get away with it. In this day and age, they can't. So things have gotten better, obviously, but back then, it was before the internet. You didn't have the benefit. It's like you just have to deal with it. Even your best friend is like, hey, you suck. Yeah. And what's interesting about that is that most people, especially people close to you, they want to see you doing well, but they don't like you doing better than them. And that's what was happening. Because you were on his level, and now all of a sudden you're up here. And now he feels insecure because you for years like, I'm going to get that job. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. That's not going to happen. He may have been positive and encouraging. And then you finally get the job. He's like, damn, son of a bitch, pull it off. And I didn't. I'm a loser.
Right.
And then so you try to label that person and bring them down a notch because then you feel better. Because when somebody rises out of your social circle and starts making more money or having cooler friends or more successful friends or dating a hotter girl, everybody around you that's just being average and mediocre, that was just kind of not really, they were humoring you when you went for the things you wanted, but they weren't really on your team. And then when you finally get there, it's a mirror back to themselves of like, man, I'm a fucking loser and I don't like that. And so if they can knock you off your pedestal or knock you down the other side of the mountain, they don't feel so bad about themselves. They don't feel like they're missing out or they have to change. So it's like, but also people that really do care, then you inspire them because then they're like, wow, Mike had all those disadvantages. He was a cripple, CP, drove around a brown turd. Everybody made fun of him.
Right.
Grew up poor. He had like every disadvantage and still was hanging out with some of the most powerful people in the world and that influenced the most powerful country in the world.
Imagine somebody going, I saw that guy on a podcast. I used to go to high school with him, and I'd say he would call him a cripple and would trip him, and he's driving around in a car we all called the Turd. So it's been a good ride, and I wouldn't change anything for anything. So
they should see you now.
Yeah,
your wounds become your strengths. Yeah, you overcome it, and then somebody that's maybe where you used to be, you know how to get out,
right?
And you know how to help them get out.
And again, watching you and Andy those years, buying watches. Part of that story I told about, or Corey explained about me speaking to people about motivation or raising money for United Cerebral Palsy. The other thing I said, when I got a Rolex watch because of these two guys, because I never thought like, and they were like, we're buying a Bugatti or whatever. What's the
Bulgari?
A Bulgari. I don't know. So anyway, I'm sitting there going, maybe I should buy a watch. So part of the story
peer
when
pressure.
I speak to people, peer pressure. Well, no, I wanted what you guys want.
Back then, the way we thought was just it was fun to get our friends to blow a bunch of money on shit like that we were doing because you get your friends to do shit like that. It validates your life choices basically, and it's kind of funny. Yeah, we got them to drop $5,000 on a watch.
And then Rick with his dual turbo, whatever that was, Supra. He's going to North Carolina to buy a car, and he's never seen it. Anyway, so the thought is, I say, listen, I have a good hand and a bad hand. He goes, is that your good hand? So good hand, left hand, bad hand, right hand. So I'm trying to make up for the years of calling my right hand a bad hand. That's where I wear the Rolex. So bad hand is getting compensated reparations because now it's wearing the Rolex. So
nice.
Do you feel bad?
Rolex reparations on the right hand.
Right. And then the joke would be like, listen, if I ever have a socks with holes in it, the socks with a hole goes on the left foot because that's the good foot. The bad foot always gets the nicer sock. So it's interesting.
Evens it out.
It evens it out.
That's why the Marines get all the hand-me-down equipment and the Army guys get all the new stuff.
Really?
Mm.
And you are who you hang around with. That's key. That's key.
The Marines do the most with the least. Tip of the spear.
I like it. Do you ever find people that even at the level I'm at, people go, I say this, and they go, oh, you live on a lake there, and oh, that's a nice car, a nice truck you got. And they go, I could have done that, but I had kids, or I was in the rat race, and I decided that wasn't for me. And so, do you?
That's
get
their
people,
story.
Yeah. Do you get people telling you like, I could? That's great that you're on the YouTube and write books, but I could have wrote a book, but. To me, that's a big excuse.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That justifies not doing anything. Right. That's the story that they tell themselves. Mm-hmm. And so part of being a coach is you listen to that. And that's people don't realize is when I ask questions and they say stuff like that, I know exactly what they're thinking and how they feel about themselves. And I'll point that out. I was like, that's your story. That's your excuse for doing nothing. That's your excuse for not going to the gym. That's your excuse for not taking care of yourself. That's your excuse for not asking for a raise. That's your excuse for not going out and finding if people won't pay you what you feel you're worth at your current employer. You're like, you'll smile on their face, but in the meantime, in your lunch breaks, your coffee breaks, your days off, you're talking to other people about, and because you don't need a job, you just want to get a better job with better people, better benefits, better income because the people you're working for won't give it to you. Then you just go get it somewhere else. And then once you get that job, who knows how long it takes? Maybe it takes you a few weeks or a few months or a year or two. It doesn't matter. Eventually, just like you waited 2 years to get that opportunity. But it sure is satisfying when you're working for assholes that won't pay you or treat you the way you want to be treated, and you get a better job with better people, and then you go and you put your 2 weeks notice in.
Yeah, right.
And they're upset that you're leaving because they felt like they had some power over you to keep you there. And then you're like, I just went and got something better.
Yeah.
And it's satisfying.
Yeah, it's like crabs in a barrel.
That's right.
They just wanna pull you down.
You got to
won't let anybody up.
participate in your own rescue.
Hmm.
Nobody's coming to save you. You have to do that yourself.
And people just project their insecurities onto you. Like your friend who said
Yeah.
you wouldn't last more than 6 months.
Tom.
Like that was just his own insecurity that he was trying
That was
to
his story.
put onto you, his narrative. Yeah.
And like the guys you used to work for you guys, and you guys, I won't name names of the people that I can remember, but those guys to look back now, they go, well, Corey is this, and because he's did that, and I went because, and then they go, well, Andy is, and the reason I'm not, so it's all excuses.
Hmm.
Excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they all stink.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
you know.